welcome back to Friday Reads, where we help you find your next read. I'm Jill.
And I'm Julie, and I've got my wool sweater on with the snowman and snowflakes because we're talking books that take place in January, February, the heart of winter. So we've got romance, we've got murder, we've got political things. So Jill, your first pick.
So, my first one is The Queen of Mystery, Midwinter Murders, Fireside Tales from the Queen of Mystery. An all-new collection of winter-themed stories from the Queen of Mystery just in time for the holidays. Which, it's a little past the holidays, but it's still snowy. There's a chill in the air, the days are growing shorter. It's the perfect time to curl up in front of a crackling fire with these wintry whodunits from legendary Agatha Christie. But beware of deadly snowdrifts and dangerous gifts, poisoned meals, and mysterious guests. This chilling compendium of short stories, some featuring beloved detectives Hercule Poirot and Miss Marple, is an essential omnibus for Christie fans and the perfect holiday gift for mystery lovers, which you've probably done with your gifts now. But if you want to read like a bunch of short stories about murders that happen in the snow, this is the one for you.
I might have to check that out for the short story group.
Yeah.
My first pick is The Warm Hands of Ghosts by Catherine Arden. This was published back in 2024, February of last year. During the Great War, a combat nurse searches for her brother, believed dead in the trenches, despite eerie signs that suggest otherwise. January 1918. Laura Ivan was a revered field nurse until she was wounded and discharged from the medical corps, leaving behind a brother still fighting in Flanders. Now back home in Halifax, Canada, she receives word of Freddie's death, along with his personal effects. But something doesn't make sense. Determined to uncover the truth, Laura returns to Belgium as a volunteer at a private hospital. Soon after arriving, she hears whispers about haunted trenches and a strange hotelier whose wine gives soldiers the gift of oblivion. Could Freddie have escaped the battlefield only to fall prey to something or someone else? November 1917, Freddie Ivan awakes after an explosion to find himself trapped in an overturned pillbox with a wounded enemy soldier, a German boy by the name of Hans Winter. Against all odds, the two men form an alliance and succeed in clawing their way out. Unable to bear the thought of returning to the killing fields, especially on opposite sides, they take refuge with a mysterious man who seems to have the power to make the hellscape of the trenches disappear. As shells rain down on Flanders and ghosts move among those yet living, Laura's and Freddie's deepest traumas are both reawakened, and now they must decide whether their world is worth salvaging or better left behind entirely.
Ooh.
So this book sounded intriguing to me. The Warm Hands of Ghosts by Catherine Arden. Came out last year. Seems funny to say that now that we're in 2025.
I know. So weird. Hard to remember that. So one of my favorite things that happens in February is the Chinese New Year, and this is a love story that is inspired by Chinese New Year. Lunar Love by Lauren Kung Jessen. This was published in 2023, so not last year. The Sweet Enemies to Lovers debut rom-com filled with Chinese astrology will undoubtedly prove to be the perfect match with readers of Helen Hong, Jasmine Guillory, and Helen Hunting. Always a matchmaker, never a match. Olivia Hong Christensen, an excited/terrified to be taking over her grandmother's matchmaking business, but when she learns that a new dating app has made her proposed traditional Chinese zodiac approach all about animal attraction, her emotions skew towards furious and outraged, especially when LA's most eligible bachelor, Bennett O'Brien, is behind the app that could destroy her family's legacy. Liv knows better than to fall for any guy, let alone an infuriatingly handsome one who believes that traditions are meant to be broken. As the two businesses go head-to-head, Bennett and Liv make a deal. They'll find a match for each other, and whoever falls in love loses. But Liv is dealing with someone who's already adept at stealing business ideas, so what's stopping him from stealing her heart too?
Romance. My next pick is 3 Days in January, Dwight Eisenhower's Final Mission by Brett Baer. This was published in 2017. This You know, January's also inauguration for some years. So, in 3 days in January, the author masterfully cast the period between Eisenhower's now prophetic farewell address on the evening of January 17, 1961, and Kennedy's inauguration on the afternoon of January 20th as the closing act of one of modern America's greatest leaders, during which Eisenhower urgently sought to prepare both the country and the next president for the challenges ahead. Those 3 days in January of 61, the author shows, were the culmination of a lifetime of service that took Ike from rural Kansas to West Point, to the battlefields of World War II, and finally to the Oval Office. When he left the White House, Dwight Eisenhower had done more than perhaps any other modern American to set the nation, in his words, on our charted course toward permanent peace and human betterment. On January 17th, he spoke to the nation in one of the most remarkable farewell speeches in U.S. history. Ike looked to the future, warning Americans against the dangers of elevating partisanship above national interest, excessive government budgets, and the expansion of the military-industrial complex and the creeping political power of special interests. Seeking to ready a new generation for power, Eisenhower intensely advised the 43-year-old John Kennedy before the inauguration. The author also reveals how Ike's 2 terms changed America forever for the better, and demonstrates how today Ike offers us the model of principled leadership that polls say is so missing in politics. So if you want a political book, check out 3 days in January.
January is definitely a political time. So I picked this one because it involved one of my favorite winter activities. This is a couple of a 12-year-old Nicky Dillon and his father snowshoeing through the thing, and they find a baby.
Oh my goodness.
What makes a family? That's what 12-year-old Nicky Dillon wonders after she and her widowed father discover a wailing abandoned baby in the snow-filled woods near their New Hampshire home. Through the days that follow, the Dillons and an unexpected visitor who soon turns up at their door, a young woman evidently haunted by her own terrible choices, face a thicket of decisions, each seeming to carry equal possibilities of heartbreak and redemption. Writing with all the emotional resonance that has drawn millions of readers around the world to her fiction, Anita Shreve unfolds A Light in Snow, a surprising novel about love and its consequences. So, what do they do with this baby?
Gotta read it to find out.
And it looks so peaceful, too,
it does.
like with the woods. And
I like the
snow.
cover of that one. My third pick is a debut. This is All Her Secrets by Wanda M. Morris. This was published back in 2021. And it's for fans of Attica Locke, Alyssa Cole, Harlan Coben, with shades of How to Get Away with Murder and John Grisham's The Firm thrown in. Everyone has something to hide. Elise Littlejohn seemingly has it all. An Ivy League law degree, a well-paying job as a corporate attorney, great friends, and a for-fun relationship with a rich, charming executive. But everything changes one cold January morning when Elise goes to meet her boss, Michael, and finds him dead with a gunshot to his head. And then she walks away like nothing happened. Why? Elise has been keeping a cache of dark secrets, including a small-town past and a kid brother who spent time on the other side of the law. She can't be thrust into the spotlight again. But instead of grieving this tragedy, people are gossiping. The police are getting suspicious, and Elise, the company's lone black attorney, is promoted to replace Michael. While the opportunity is a dream come true, Elise just can't shake the feeling that something is off. When she uncovers shady dealings inside the company, she's trapped in an impossible ethical and moral dilemma. Suddenly, her past and present lives collide as she launches into a pulse-pounding race to protect the brother she tried to save years ago and stop a conspiracy far more sinister than she could ever imagined. So, again, everyone has something to hide, all her little secrets.
Wow. So we're going back into the political realm. I hear that Lincoln is having a moment, probably because of Eric Larson's Demon of Unrest that came out last year. This is Lincoln on the Verge, 13 Days to Washington by Ted Weidemer. As a divided nation plunges into the deepest crisis in its history, Abraham Lincoln boards a train for Washington and his inauguration. Inauguration Southerners have vowed to prevent by any means necessary. Drawing on new research, this account reveals the president-elect as a work in progress, showing him on the verge of greatness, foiling an assassination attempt, and forging an unbreakable bond with the American people. On the eve of his 52nd birthday, February 11th, 1861, the President-elect of the United States, Abraham Lincoln, walked onto a train, the first step of his journey to the White House and his rendezvous with destiny. But as the train began to carry Lincoln towards Washington, it was far from certain what he would find there. Bankrupt and rudderless, the government was on verge of collapse. To make matters worse, reliable intelligence confirmed conspiracy to assassinate him as he passed through Baltimore. It is no exaggeration to say that the fate of the Republic hung in the balance. How did Lincoln survive this grueling odyssey to become the president we know from history books? Lincoln on the Verge tells the story of a leader discovering his own strength, improvising brilliantly, and seeing his country up close through those pivotal 13 days. From the moment the President's Special left the station, the new Lincoln was on display, speaking constantly from a moving train to save the Republic. The journey would draw on all of Lincoln's mental and physical reserves, but the President-elect discovered an inner strength which deepened with the exhausting ordeal of meeting millions of Americans. So, Lincoln on the Verge.
My next pick had to throw some cozies in, so I've got A Page Marked for Murder by Lauren Elliott. This was published back in 2020. This got a 4.21 on Goodreads. Nice. It's the 5th Beyond the Page bookstore mystery in this series. January isn't the season for the seaside, but the big Fire and Ice Festival is keeping bookstore owner Addie busy. Amid the plans for a fireworks display and an ice carving competition, she's also dog-sitting for a friend in the hospital. When Addie goes to her friend's house to gather supplies, she notices an interesting item on the nightstand, which belongs to her shop assistant, Paige, a very valuable copy of the beloved children's book, The Secret Garden. But Addie's blood runs cold when she finds something else, a dead body behind the bakery next door to her shop. Martha, the bakery owner, has no alibi and has been seen in a heated argument with the victim. And the next thing Addie knows, that first edition book has gone missing. Is there a connection between the body and the treasured book? If there is, it's up to Addie to find a killer with a motive as hidden as Frances Hodgson Burnett's famous garden. So A Page Marked for Murder, if you want a cozy that takes place in January.
So my last one is a little bit different. It's for those of you who maybe want to read more poetry. It's a poetry book. This is Winter Recipes from the Collective by Louise Gluck. This is a book of poetry by American poet Louise Elizabeth Gluck, who served as poet laureate in the United States from 2003 to 2004, and she won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 2020 for her poetry. So this is a collection of her poems. Winter Recipes from the Collective is chamber music, an invitation into that privileged realm small enough for the individual instrument to make itself heard. Dolente, its line sustained, carried, and then taken up by the next instrument, spirited, animoso, while at the same time being large enough to contain a whole lifetime. The inconceivable gifts and losses of old age, the little princesses rattling in the back of a car, an abandoned passport, the ingredients of an invigorating winter sandwich, a sister's death, a joyful presence in the sun, its brightness measured by the darkness's casts. Some of you will know what I mean, the poet says, by which she means some of you will follow me. Hers is a sustaining presence, a voice containing all of our lifetimes, all of the worlds, each more beautiful than last. This magnificent book couldn't have been written by anyone else, nor could it have been written by a poet at any other time in her life. So, The Winter Recipes from the Collective.
That's a good pick. My last pick is for all you Sherlock Holmes fans. This is There's a Murder Afoot, a Sherlock Holmes bookshop mystery by Vicki Delaney. This is also the 5th book in that series. The 6th of January is Sherlock Holmes' birthday. And lucky for Gemma Doyle, January is also the slowest time of the year at both the Sherlock Holmes Bookshop and Emporium and Mrs. Hudson's Tea Room. It's a good time for Gemma and her friends to travel to England for a Holmes convention. For Gemma, the trip provides an opportunity to visit her parents. Jane Wilson is excited about seeing all the sights London has to offer, and Ryan just wants to spend some time with Gemma. But the trip is immediately derailed when Gemma's father, Henry, recognizes his brother-in-law, Randolph Manning, who disappeared more than 30 years ago on the night he stole a valuable painting from his own parents. Henry, a retired detective with Scotland Yard, has been keeping tabs on the man's career as a forger of old masters, and he warns Randy to stay away from his family. Randy is at the conference selling his own art, a series of sketches inspired by the Holmes canon. The ever-observant Gemma notes that he isn't exactly popular with some of the other conference attendees. But when Randy is found dead after the banquet with a dazed and confused Henry Doyle standing over him, the police leap to assume his guilt. It's up to Gemma, with the help of her friends, to plunge into the lowest and vilest alleys of London to save her father from prison. So, takes you around 221 Baker Street and all those places. So if you're fans of Sherlock Holmes, there's a murder afoot.
I like the title, too. Well, nobody looks forward to January and February. Maybe some people do.
Well, we hope we gave you some good choices to curl up with a good book in the cold of the winter. So you can find our videos on our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, the Kimberly Public Library website. We wish you a happy new year. This is our new 2025 series of Friday Reads. And until next time, Jill and I thank you for watching. Bye.
Bye.